Welcome back to a new video. So this is the last couple days that ended the short little block I did. So essentially I kind of planned a long-term program and I kind of went off the rails with it because I knew the next day at the end of this video, so the Friday, was going to be preceding a day off. So basically Saturday today, or Sunday. Today's Sunday. Yesterday I didn't train because I drove back up north to where my family's from to have a Christmas dinner, even though it was the 21st of December. That's when my sister wanted to do it, which kind of works out better for probably most people just to have it on a Saturday versus like Christmas Eve or day when it's on a weekday. So varies year to year, I suppose, with that. But it was actually, quite a nice time up there. The drive up there was nice because my car didn't break down or anything, which is fantastic. And the only reason I say this is because I had to fix the rocker arm. I feel like I've talked about this in other videos, but it might have been on other channels. Essentially, my Malibu was having some issues with what the error code says is the rocker arm, and it's like a variable timer thing. And it's basically, at least if you know what a Malibu looks like when you open the hood up, the big oil basin behind it, there's a little thing called a VTT, variable timer or something. I don't know. Something that is behind the oil thing that does something with the oil. Basically, that was having an issue where it wasn't working properly. So it created some issues where, I had engine error code coming up. The car was kind of running rough and all of that stuff. But finally, I was able to get the part and fix that issue, and it's actually fixed it like 100%. So now the car is running fine. So I'm really unmotivated to look at buying a new car because it means I can just save more money. Obviously, continue to pay for grad school, which I already kind of have that financially planned out, and just save money. That's basically the big thing. I'm not really a car person. I would like a new car, but it's kind of like I would like a new house. Like I don't really need a new house, or I'm not like desperate for it, but it's just like, if it worked out, if financially made sense. But if I get my car to work like 2 more years without any major issues, then I'd be in a good spot where my first master's would be done. I'm probably not going to do a second master's, just do grad school level classes to get that second bump up. But kind of at that point, then start moving forward with that one, but then potentially have my house paid off and then really be able to put a lot of money towards a new car. So I'm in no big rush, but I also have the ability, thankfully, because of the way I've saved money, that if my car exploded, that I would be able to go and finance a car without, going into debt, or at least being able to live normally, and just paying for a car payment or whatever. But this last week was kind of weird. I definitely pushed too hard. I wasn't really, I guess in some sense, like if you saw some of my shorts and like the short videos, like I fit some really good lifts, but I certainly wasn't prepared for a max snatch or clean and jerk. But apparently, no matter what I do, I'm prepared for a max deadlift, which is just always hilarious to me. But at the end of this block, hit that 176 clean, which when you get to that workout towards the end of this video, you'll see that I clarked 172 the first time I did it, made it on the second one, then went to 176. And 176 is significant for a couple different reasons. Obviously, it being a PR is the most significant, but it's also the weights. If you've been following my channel for a while, you may remember that I injured my hip not this year, but the year before, and it was with 176. So it was actually the same weight that injured me. So I haven't actually attempted it since that point. And it was that same year, I believe, where I had done 175. So I haven't actually PR'd my clean itself in a little while. And honestly, like when I caught that and stood up, I was like, I could in theory do 180 like that day. But with how emotionally invested I got into that lift, how hyped I had to get, obviously wasn't really realistic. But just looking at like how the video and how the speed of it all looked, like there's definitely more weight that's there, which is really exciting to see. That it wasn't like, obviously it was hard, but it wasn't an like a strength maximal lift or like an existentially difficult lift. So it's kind of exciting. I think I can do 180 next year as far as just the clean goes, and I might be able to deadlift 700 pounds, which is hilarious that no matter what I do, my deadlift will continue to go up. It's just a fun lift to do, but obviously it's not really helping me with much at this point other than just looking strong. I guess being pretty strong to do that weight. But that's kind of was, I guess, the two big points or the two big highlights of the Friday session because snatching didn't go great. Clean jerks went okay. I did 156. And then back squats, I tried 240, which I actually tried it twice, which is quite unique. I don't usually fail a squat. Front squats sometimes, but I usually don't fail a back squat and have the motivation to try it again. But honestly, it didn't feel impossible when I did it the first time. It felt like I just didn't commit enough to it, but it was close. Both attempts were decently close, but just didn't have enough in me on that day for that lift. But definitely, it's getting there. Legs are continuing to get stronger. But like I said, I wasn't really hyper prepared, and I'm not really that disappointed that I wasn't able to get up to to 130, 160 or whatever with like the snatch and clean jerk. I kind of knew, building up to this day, that those numbers probably weren't going to be there, just based on how inconsistent the top end snatching and clean jerks were. But I still wanted to give it a try since I knew I'd have a day off the next day, so it was just give it a college try and see what happens. But obviously hitting 2 PRs is really nice, and being confident enough to try the 240 PR back squat attempt twice is encouraging as well. But certainly now that I'm back I have now all winter break to train and not travel or anything, I do have one thing that I have going on, I think in like 6 days. My old mentor from my first school where I taught as a special ed teacher for 4 years. I taught at that school, and then I went to the other elementary in the district to start as a phys ed teacher. And at that district, and really, at that school and both schools, I kind of had the same mentor, but you're assigned a mentor or whatever, but really like she was I would still kind of consider her in that same realm, but still like a good mentor for me as just a teacher and a person. Such as my mom just described her as my school mom. And I think my sister had someone similar when she started teaching in South Carolina. Now she's back in Ohio like me, although I never went to South Carolina, but she's a teacher in Ohio as well, and she had someone similar in that vein. But that mentor person is planning a get-together of all the old teachers from my first school, which will be really cool to go to. I'm not normally a social butterfly, but for something like this, I would be surprised if it happens frequently, if there's like multiple reunions or whatever with that. But I think it will be a fun time to see some old friends and to see some old faces and kind of just tell people where I'm standing as far as teaching goes and where I'm at, and kind of hear where they're at, if they're at a new school, or how it's going at the old place if they're still there, and just talk shop, I suppose. But it's cool to have that opportunity. So I'm really looking forward to that. Certainly, wouldn't normally do something like that. Like I'm not not socially inclined, but when it's something that fun or something, I don't know. It just was like as soon as she texted like the big group, I was like, oh, 100%. Especially during winter break, I'm not doing anything really, so it's easy to plan for something like that. But I do have that to look forward to. But other than that, I do have just all training. So I'm back to doing what I'm going to be, at least I doodled a 10-week block, and very similar to when I made that video talking about like my next block of training, very similar in that regard, but a little bit less aggressive on the I don't really want to call them off days, but on the non-main days. So I at least tentatively drafted that it would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday would be like the heavier days, and Tuesday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays would be the lighter days, essentially doing pulls, pressing, and actually a new exercise, some front rack holds or jerk dip squats. One of the two, but essentially just holding weight in that front rack and just getting that tolerance there. The goal of this next block is obviously just to get more volume in all the classics, of course. Get back to doing some squat volume, which hadn't really gone away, but just put in a lot of good normal training. The Monday day is regular snatch volume, and then the Wednesday, or I guess the third day, will be like high hang snatch or hang snatch volume, or some sort of derivative. I'm not hell-bent on making it high hang snatches. It could be pause snatches or no foot snatching or whatever, but I'll have to play around to see what the vibe is when I get to that day. But then the Friday, or the day 5 session, will just be a bunch of singles in the snatch, just to practice with the hook grip, of course, but also to go a little bit heavier. And then clean jerks is a similar progression. Day 1, we'll have clean doubles or triples, and then jerks out of the rack, and then it's back squat volume. Wednesday is a derivative of the clean, so at least I doodled power cleans, and then a push press plus power jerk, so the weight will be lighter with that, of course, and then front squats on that day. And then on the 5th day, it just being clean jerks and then more back squats, potentially heavier than at day 1. On the off days, the first Tuesday, or I guess the day 2, will be clean pulls, and then the other 2 days will be snatch pulls, and then overhead presses will kind of stay the same. Same with the jerk dip squats or the front rack holds or whatever I decide to do on those days. The Sunday, the day that I'm recording this, is kind of up in the air. I kind of have to think about what kind of stuff I'm going to do on this day. What I might end up doing is just starting the day 1, what I have written down for Monday. I always like to write it. I guess sometimes I kind of go back and forth, but usually I just go Monday. When I'm writing out a draft of what I want a week to look like, I always just plan the first day being Monday, but really it doesn't have to be. That's an arbitrary start. But I might start that today when I go to the gym and just have, just go through the week and then figure out what I want, what will end up being, I guess, a Saturday session be, and then have Sunday be a day 1. I kind of like the heavier days or a more difficult day being on the weekend because it's usually a more consistent day as far as recovery goes. Fridays can be, a good day because, it's the start of the weekend and whatnot. But having at least one of the heavier sessions being on the weekend tends to be a good thing, although it's easy to be lazy on the weekend and not want to do, really difficult sessions. But that's just more of a function of just being kind of lazy all day and then going into the gym. But certainly still, what I want to do. Currently, my body weight this morning, I guess afternoon when I got home from driving, or from my hometown, I should say. I'm back in my home from my hometown. I was, 236 and a half after driving. And so probably a little bit dehydrated, but I also had some water on the way. I was drinking water when I was riding home or driving home. So I think I'm kind of used to the drive at this point. So I don't think I'm necessarily losing a ton of fluid, but essentially around 236. And so that is 107, a little above 107. So I'm kind of been hanging around there. So body weight's been pretty consistent. I think that I'm going to try, not necessarily super hard, but I do want to not cut weight, but to try to get to 240 and kind of just sit at that 240 mark. 242, I don't really want to get to 242. Not that I'm not, the 2 pounds wouldn't make a difference really, but I don't want to sit around that, like the weight class top end if I can help. But at this point, gaining weight obviously would mean that I'm able to gain some muscle mass probably, especially the way that, I am. I eat generally healthy and do a lot of training, so I'm not just going to get 4 pounds of fat most likely. So it'll take a little bit to kind of start to put that on, but main accessories that I'm thinking about doing are upper body stuff. So that's the other thing with the kind of week of planning, is to kind of think about accessory work to do. It wasn't on this day, it was on the last day, on that Friday. I did some bodybuilding stuff after, and I actually did one that my friend Justin was doing the other day, and I kind of stole from him. So he's the one that really kind of coached me in the weightlifting initially, and by coaching, just kind of we trained with each other for several years, and kind of helped me develop my technical base in a sense, because he was a good technical model to watch and to learn from, which is really how I learned the best, just watching other people do stuff and then just mimicking what they do. And that's kind of, I suppose, an athletic gift that I might have, or a curse. I don't know. I'm not really good at. I've never had a coach, so whatever technique I've gotten is just from watching other people lift and myself. So I guess for better or for worse. But he did. So he's like sitting just on a bench or whatever, and had dumbbells down to the side by his hips, and would kind of. He called them dumbbell power cleans, but essentially you have them down hanging at your side, and then you upright row them up and then flip them up, and like you're externally rotating them. And for me, I kind of, just because there was people using the 10s and the 15s, I used 20 pounds, which was a little bit too heavy. So it's actually, I think, a really interesting exercise, because I feel it a lot, but it also works like the shoulders in a way that's similar to how you would have it worked in the weightlifting movements. And it kind of works on the back of the shoulder, and it's just like a dynamic shoulder movement, and you can kind of load it a bit more than like a lateral raise, so you can get better leverage on it, I suppose. But that was an interesting exercise, and I liked the shoulder pump that I got from that. And then I actually did biceps, which I don't like doing, but I forced myself to do some machine biceps. And I actually did lift technically on Saturday, probably for like 15 minutes, but I just went and did my dad's weights and stuff in the basement. Nothing crazy like I have at my house, just dumbbells, a bench, and I mean, honestly, a pretty good setup. You could probably do 99% of stuff. Just legs would be kind of hard to do there, but you could do lunges and stuff and whatever. But essentially, you can do 99% of exercises you need to do. But I just did triceps, just triceps. So I did some dumbbell overhead extensions and some bands, tricep extensions, which were interesting because I got a crazy tricep pump with that. So it's kind of, I guess, my idea with gaining mass is not necessarily, I mean, in theory, just 4 pounds of upper body muscle mass would be kind of nice, but not really feasible unless, honestly, even if I went on the European supplements, I don't know if I would be putting on 4 pounds of just upper body mass. But that's the idea, is like at least to focus on mass on the upper body to try to get that generally stronger and to find movements that I like doing that aren't, bad for my joints necessarily. Like the overhead tricep extensions probably aren't what I'm going to do with the dumbbells very frequently. I'm probably going to opt to do cable overhead extensions because those feel just really good as far as just how it works the muscle, but also just joint wise and everything. Biceps feel like biceps. They're just, whatever. And the shoulder, I guess dumbbell cleans felt really good as well. So that might be kind of like a main shoulder accessory that I do. And obviously, I'm going to be doing overhead press and pulls and stuff. So it's not as if I'm not going to be getting normal accessories, but it's nice to kind of have those extra things to do that you can get that little bit of volume in, especially, on a day like this day, like just you have all that energy or extra caffeine because you're going to do a heavy session. So it's good to have exercises that you can throw in at the end if you want to spend more energy. I put the 3 kilos on at the beginning just to give myself the ability to potentially go to 128, but you'll see it just doesn't go well. I got to 118 without missing, and then missed 123, 128, and 130. I clocked 131, but it is what it is. Like, I kind of knew, but once I missed 123, or you just kind of know when you're building up that, like, it's possible, but just wasn't all the way there. And I just wasn't, as peaked as I was for the Thanksgiving Day max out, or I guess the Thanksgiving Day Eve max out. And it is what it is. Just didn't have the speed with it, and not as, it was only 3 weeks ago, so wasn't really super surprised that it didn't go fantastic. And I think in the past I would get really, upset on a day like this when I just wanted to go heavy, and there's not like a justification or like a build to that to where it would justify it going well. But thankfully, I think one improvement on these kind of days that I've made over the years is I don't get as upset after, like, say, snatching, and I don't try to do clean jerks well. I remember having days in the past where I would snatch poorly and be like, I just don't want to do clean jerks, and I don't want to do anything, and I just want to stop. And it's not always the worst idea. That's the tricky thing, is like, it's not always bad to like feel like complete trash and then stop lifting on a particular day. Sometimes it's good to cut your losses, but like, I knew, like, I don't feel great for snatching, but it's okay. I can feel good on the other exercises. And sometimes that's hard to disassociate from that first exercise to do a different one. Because, I mean, honestly, oftentimes it is related. If you feel bad when you snatch, like, you might just feel bad in general, but sometimes, like on this day, even clean jerks didn't go fantastic. This was 156. I have the 1 kilo plate sneakily in there, and the jerk felt really good, and I thought I might have a chance to do 163. I was really surprised with how good the 156 went, but caught the clean pretty well. Jerk just didn't have enough energy with it. I just need more training with just specifically the jerk. What was interesting here, so I see here, missed the jerk, but went up to 172, and I actually clarked this. I just waited way too long. If I showed you this full video, I was like standing for like a full minute, just apprehensive about doing it. Because, the 171 I did a couple weeks ago was the heaviest I had done in a while. And so this 172, I was happy that I was able to catch. And then so it gave me the confidence to take a yeet at this and make it on the first attempt. And I had to get so hyped for it that I knew that even though I looked at it, like looking at it now, I'm like, I could have thrown 180 on there. I definitely, like, that was all of my emotion to get into that. And I think something like that probably was partially the difference in the squat, because even when I got up to 240 to attempt it, it felt light on my back, which is always a good indicator that like I have a good chance of being able to push through it. But I think with how difficult or how hard I pushed the cleans there, how emotionally invested, how much fatigue I gave myself from that, I think that was just the difference. And it would have been more than 100% of my best back squats, so it's not altogether surprising. But yeah, you see there, decently close. I mean, and that's the kind of lift that when I look at, like, all right, if I didn't do the other lifts as hard, I would be able to do that 240. And I actually attempted it the second time, and wasn't as close on the second one, but just immediately went to 240 on the pull or on the deadlift after, which is always funny. Did a total of 3 deadlifts to get to my PR, so this is 290. That black, you can see it from the other side, but the black plate in there is also a 10 kilo plate like the green. And then here is 310, which moved a lot better than I thought. I thought I was going to have to fight super hard, and I did, but not as hard as other PRs. And here's a crack I took at 700. I actually moved a little bit, which the issue I had, I mean, obviously, it's super maximal weight. It would have been after just hitting 310. So 310 was a 4 kilo PR, and that was 8 kilos above that. So it would have been like a 12 kilo PR on the deadlift, which is already, for me, a really heavy lift. So I wasn't surprised at all, but also because I did that 310 deadlift, I was happy. And not that that's bad, but like when you're already like feel accomplished, and obviously like hitting a 4 kilo PR, especially at the level that I'm at with deadlifts, it's always, you're always going to feel good about it. Really, anytime you hit a PR, you should always feel good about it. But like at the extreme level that my deadlift is at, it's weird to hit PRs still. But I was like, I kind of have to try 700. It's only 17 pounds away, and I knew I probably wasn't going to be able to get it, but just to kind of wiggle it off the ground, which is kind of cool. I think next year I'll be able to do that, and the 400 pound clean, and I just have to hit the volume and just go really hard for a block of training. This 10-week block that I've kind of doodled out will take me to the end of February, and I think that will set me up well, that if I'm able to hit good numbers in that February mark, that March, April, May, like I'll have another block of training from there. And then have that big competition in May, that not really a local one, but have a competition in May that I'll do, and hopefully some good numbers at. But gotta put in that work. So 10 weeks, I guess 10 weeks of hard training, but back to doing some volume in the main, really all the lifts, and trying to build that up, and hopefully it's some big PRs. There's not any big events happening that I'm gonna randomly try to peak like a day off or something I have that's going up. So just normal life stuff, teaching and whatnot. But yeah, excited for it. Trainings, I mean, there's certainly good and bad of this day, but it's always good to hit strength PRs, and a clean PR and a lifetime PRs is always good to hit, of course, and quite happy about that. With only 3 weeks of training from the previous max out day, and I don't know, it's all going well. But appreciate it if you made it this far, or to any of my videos, and I hope you all have a great day. And I don't have another normal video talking before Christmas. Merry Christmas, but I probably will be able to, because I don't have school right now. But anywho, talk to you all in the next one. Peace.